Hello everyone, this is Charlotte and this is a podcast called Chatting in Cars. It's where I talk about various topics and I drive places. It's currently my weekend, so I'm pretty stoked to be doing this in my own time and not having to rush anywhere. There's a disclaimer at the start of this podcast because I do talk about some sensitive topics. So if you don't want to hear about sensitive topic, absolutely, you don't have to listen. I also swear quite a bit because I'm expressive with my language and I like it. I like using it in an artistic way, and including the word fuck. So I'm going to keep swearing. If you don't want to hear that, that's absolutely okay. You don't have to listen. You can turn the channel over and I'm sure there's something more wholesome you can listen to. Let's see if I can find a decent topic to talk about. I've got a list. Abandonment. Should we do abandonment? Abandonment. Oh, okay. All right. So if you've listened to any of the other podcasts, you'd know that I've had an interesting background. Quite a common background, actually, given the area I was raised in. But, you know, horrible, interesting background nonetheless. It makes you colourful. Definitely builds character. And abandonment was part of it. I wasn't physically abandoned by my parents. I was, you know, if you want to take the softer side of it, I was emotionally and psychologically abandoned by my parents. So that's the fun side of being in the poverty cycle. Whilst, I mean, in a positive sense, they're trying to keep you alive. I would assume they're trying to keep you alive by getting their funds together and looking after you that way. Because money was always time. We were always scraping for money and stuff like that. So their priority was to keep us alive, I guess. I'm assuming in the best sense, right? I mean, everything else that came with it in the poverty cycle, which is a bit fucked up, but that would have been the main directive. Whilst that's the priority, there's a lot of stuff that gets pushed to the side, basically. So, besides the fact my parents are mentally fucked in the head, they are. I can safely say that, and I don't mean that in a mean way. I don't know if that's any kind of situation that started, but must have been before us kids came along. My parents must have not exactly been stable. And we were just, you know, the recipients of that wonderful gift of stored rage and mental instability. But then again, we get to be the cycle breakers, so I can't be too harsh on that. I mean, honestly, if you see something to that extent being given to you as a form of parenting, you can absolutely turn around and say, no, I'm not going to do that one. That hurts. I'm not putting that on someone else. One of the reasons I absolutely know for sure I could never hit a kid. It's like, absolutely. It's like, no, I've been the recipient of that. I'm not passing that one on. I will find other ways. Besides the fact I'm a teacher for a job, so if I hit a kid, I'm kind of fucked. You kind of can't hit your kids. But no, you don't want to hit kids, man. I mean, they're small and soft and squishy. Just leave them alone. You don't want to hurt those fuckers. They're funny as fuck most of the time, and they're insane. I've still got a kid, my year ones. I had my year ones yesterday because I'm teaching tech at one of the schools, at the local schools. And every time he sees me, he's trying to convince me to marry him. I'm going, you're 5. He's like, you gotta marry me. You're gonna marry me. It's like every 10 minutes he comes up, are you gonna marry me? I'm like, no. I think he just thinks it's a game. They do stupid stuff like that and you think, how could anyone want to hurt one of these guys? Like, they're insane. It doesn't make sense. But he's adorable. I mean, they're all fucking cute. Year 5s can be trying. But anyway, bloody hormones kicking in early. But, you know, abandonment. I can't imagine abandoning my own kids. I mean, I got pregnant twice, and I miscarried twice, obviously, because I don't have them now. That was when I was 21 years old and 23 years old. So I would have been a very young mum in my eyes. I don't know how I would have coped, because in no way was I stable enough, as I would deem it now, to provide for these babies. And bearing in mind, I'm 38 now, so these kids would be teenagers by now. I can't imagine how my life would have been different. I've only just sort of come to the more level-headed side of things when I hit 30, because I'm like, okay, I'm too tired to start, you know, cracking the shits over stupid stuff and whinging. I was very codependent in my marriage, and that was the guy I got pregnant to, so... And this was before we were married, so we were just not in a position to have kids in any kind of a way. So I knew that the life they would have had would have been horrible. And again, in having the miscarriages, I know it was a bad thing on the whole, but also it was a good thing. because I know I could never have given them the life they deserved in that circumstances. I was with a covert narcissist, a complete dickhole. Not covert, overt. Yeah, he dragged on everyone. If he could, he would have a dig at everyone. Just thought he was absolute top shit, that one. I don't know why, how he became that way, I don't know. Anyway, but my life at that point was devoted to making him happy. I was doing whatever I could to be the perfect wife, you know. You come from a troubled background, you're sitting there thinking, how can I make this better? So I became the quintessential cliche perfect wife. I would have wanted to have been the perfect mother as well, knowing me. And it would have been a drain on the whole situation. I don't know how I could have kept it up, given what he was like and the stress of adding 2 extra kids at such a young age as well. What I deem as a young age. We had girls in high school that were pregnant and having kids. I'm going, I don't even know how this is physically possible, because none of us have got genitals till we're 18. I'm pretty sure. You know, so you don't want to think about 16-year-olds getting it on. You're just like, ugh. So that was a bit absurd. I didn't lose my virginity till I was 19 and engaged. The idea of it just didn't hit me at that age. I know I was a late bloomer, so. Plus, there was a whole bunch of other shit going on with my mental stuff, so it just didn't occur to me to be having sex at that age. So, my mother wounds, and I do have parental wounds, I have both sides there, because both my parents were berserkers. They didn't steer towards any kind of emotional support or encouragement. My dad emotionally ignored us, to be honest. If he wasn't going berserker at us because we pissed him off somehow in some random way, just noise in general or anything like that. I remember, I've already told the story, so we had this long house, and at one end I'd lit a joss stick, those incense burner sticks, and he'd been up the other end of the house, and somehow he had smelt it, and he came storming down the passageway, and there was this big fucking kerfuffle. And so that was the kind of things he's known for in my head. It's like, I don't remember him in any way being any kind of affectionate father figure. It was a case of either being ignored or, him being fucking furious all the time. There's no in between. There was no, hugs and things like that. And now when he wants to hug me, I feel really creepy about it. I don't like any of that. So I've got a father wound, definitely. And my mum was an outright fucking berserker. She was like, hit first, ask questions later. Very American in that sense. Oops, gravelly road. Oh, it is gravelly. So I didn't have that mothering stuff. I do have natural mothering instincts. But they came later. They didn't come from her. They came from watching my EAs, my ed assistants, watching my sister, my older sister, with her kids. She got them from somewhere. I don't know where. I picked it up from everywhere else but my parents. So anything like that, But it does set you up for abandonment issues. And I do have abandonment issues somewhat. I had extreme ones, which led me to be codependent in my marriage. I was emotionally codependent on him. I relied on him heavily for validation, and he played on it because, of course, narcissists love that shit. If you're going to sit there and tell them how wonderful they are, of course you're going to stay, and they're going to stay for as long as they can get the supply. The fact that I damn near worshipped the prick was a bit of a fall for myself when I had to leave, but it was a fall for him as well, really, because I'm not sure if he got the same kind of attention when we did break up, so that would be an eye-opener for him, I think. Maybe he's not the ultimate, God's gift to humanity. But my abandonment issues, which were started by my parents, led me to some horrible relationships. By the time I got to my ex-boyfriend, the abandonment issues weren't fucking there. That guy was a prick, and he tried to do the same thing that my ex-husband did, and I was sitting there going, darling, I've lived through this 16 years, I'm not doing it again. So when he tried to play on that and use trauma bonding with the whole, what do they call it? Scarcity tactics, where they withhold their presence or their affection or their, whatever you feel inclined to, that should be as part of the relationship, attention, time, intimacy, vulnerability, all this kind of emotional stuff. They'll withhold it in order to make it seem that it's more valuable. And you have to work to get it. You prove that you're worth having this, attention, this intimacy, this vulnerability. It's like, they just treat you like shit, basically. They treat you like shit and hope that you get anxiously attached. And whilst I was married, I was anxiously attached to my ex-husband. By the time I left that fucker, I wasn't. And then I was like, I'm not anyway. I became avoidant, if anything. I was hesitant. And I was brave in that I went into my ex-boyfriend, the relationship with my ex-boyfriend. Because at the point, I was chilling for about 2 years there after I divorced him. I was grieving the marriage, but I was also just chilling. I was not really looking for any kind of relationship. I was just happy bopping along, having my routine and getting my life on track. I was going to the gym and everything. I was just like, yeah, this is great. I can get my shit together. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. At that point, there was no real directive because I just walked out of, at that point, it had been 33 years of people telling me what to do. So I had roughly about 2 years of freedom to decide what I wanted to be and who I am. And I was enjoying that. I mean, there was still, feeling sad and all that shit and angry. But at the same time, I knew whatever I did, my decisions were my own. Whatever I decided to say or do or, participate in, it was because I had directed it, not because someone had said I had to or told me I had to look a certain way or act a certain way. So I became myself in that way. It was really great. But, I lost the abandonment issues in there. By that time, I became confident in myself that I didn't really want anyone. So I thought I was pretty healed and I was okay by then. And then my ex-boyfriend popped his head up and said, hey, do you want to meet up for coffee and shit like that? And I thought, oh, yeah, I'm all right. I could go for a coffee and stuff like that, start meeting people again. It's been 2 years. I thought I'd heal. You don't heal in 2 years. I'm just saying that because as soon as you brush up against that new person, and probably my ex-boyfriend was the worst one for it because he just replicated what my ex-husband did, except he did it worse because he was sexually violent as well. And a few other fucking things where he was just not subtle about anything. At least my ex-husband was a bit more subtle. But you brush up against it and it's a test to see if you've healed, I think, because you're seeing the same patterns and things and you're thinking, okay, how did I react the first time? Am I going to react the same way this time? And it's a test. It's a litmus test. I mean, I asked myself when I was with my ex-boyfriend, it's like, do I fucking want this? Because I could see the same patterns coming up. I'm going, I'm seeing this again and again, and I know where this goes, and I know the story ends, and I don't want this. And by the end of it, I was kind of happy to leave. I was more interested in getting a different apartment than I was starting a relationship with him again. And that would have been the 6th time we broke up. And it was always something stupid. Something stupid like, if you listen to the other podcasts, you'll hear me rant about this guy. Which is a bit sad, but I'm still healing in that sense. It's more understanding why it happened rather than actually any kind of wanting him back or anything. It's like, but why? You sit there and you go, I was a nice person. I don't understand why. It's a weird thing. Anyway, so by the time I got to this ex-boyfriend, my abandonment issues were gone. I didn't have any kind of anxious attachment. So when I was with him, it was more a case of just trying to give him the benefit of doubt. I wasn't anxiously attached. I wasn't concerned. I mean, a few times I turned around and said, look, I'm not a match for you. You need to find someone who's better, who wants to sit around in bars and do this whole, sexually harassing bar stuff. I don't know, drugs, smoking, whatever. I don't know. I knew at that point I was not the person for him. But he's like, every time I came to check on him, and it would end up with, let's meet up for coffee. Oh, let's go for lunch. Oh, let's go for drinks. Oh, let's go to my house. Oh, and then we're shagging. Oh, then we're back again. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake, it's the same pattern. And in the end, I had to curb even meeting up with him. I had concern for him, obviously, because I don't want to be an asshole. I mean, who does? But he would play on that sort of thing, and he'd use it as a sort of crowbar or a foot in the door to get you drunk and fuck you again. He was sitting there going, what the shit is going on? Every time I try and show concern for this asshole, it ends up with us getting back together because he's got me drunk. It doesn't make sense. And he never actually confirmed whether we were together or not. So it was always complicated. It just kept you in a state of confusion. You don't know what you're doing. It's like, I'm doing girlfriend things. Should I be doing this? I don't know. And then finding evidence around the house of him fucking other people and stuff like that. And you're going, what the fuck? So I don't even know what the fuck that was, whether it was a relationship or not. I think it was a situationship, to be honest. But the abandonment issues I had from childhood into my marriage by the time I got up to this guy, I was fed up. I didn't have any inclination to want to be with anyone particularly. I didn't feel the same way I did with my ex-husband. My ex-husband, I felt like I died when my ex-husband left. I didn't. It was horrible. It was such an extreme feeling because I had actually built everything around him. You know, just like that Landslide song, right? You listen to that Landslide song, going through a divorce, you're like, fucking yeah, it's so true, man. It's like fucking Fleetwood Mac. And she must have done something similar at that time period, right? When she wrote that song, because it was so heavy, the lyrics, and you're going, fuck yeah. It's that song. It's like, I have built my entire life around you. I don't know anything else, you know? And he got me from 17, so half my life at least had gone to him. So when he decided to pull the plug on that with his actions, I didn't know what to do with myself, man. I didn't even know who the fuck I was, because everything I was what he wanted me to be, and even then he didn't want it. So it's like, there's a lesson in authenticity, right? Being genuine. I had no sense of self when he left, really. And it just crashed. Everything crashed. That was an ultimate tower moment in my life. The dark night of the soul kicked in. I started questioning my morality. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, where I was going or anything, and I had nothing to work with. I knew that I was in debt. So it was crazy. That's when your life drops out the arse and you go, okay, now what do I do with this? Am I going to sit here and dwell? Am I going to think my life is truly tragic and everyone hates me and I should just, you know, top it, end it? I don't know. Or do you just sit there and think, okay, so everything's dropped through the arse, what's left? And what can I use? And it turns out what I had was my job still. Uni had dropped out the arse, so I thought, do I really need this? It became abundantly clear what members of my family could be fucked actually acknowledging me. And it turns out it was only my brother. I'm in a family of 6. The only one who acknowledged me was my brother when I was going through this. And I'm sitting there thinking, what the fuck, dude? My parents didn't bother contacting me. They knew what was going on because everything in our family happens through the grapevine. One finds out, they knew about when I was getting engaged, they knew when I was getting married, they knew all this shit. They know about us each, but they don't bother interacting unless they want something. So it's a very fucked up family situation. So I came to know where my allegiances lie. The only person who looked after me was my brother. No one checked on me. So, yeah, hence the reason now, if my brother needs anything, I drop tools and I fucking run to help him. I don't, if it's my, you know, even my sisters who were raised the same way as me. My brother wasn't raised the same way as me. Funny enough, we're in a family together, but my brother got a different dose. I mean, behavior-wise, he got the shit kicked out of him possibly more, because my dad also went for him. My dad wasn't allowed to go for us girls, but he went for my brother. And that's most of the traumatic stuff I can remember, is watching him holding him up against the wall and shit like that. So, and this is just like a 15-year-old kid he's holding up against the wall blasting. That's some fucked up shit. I'm going, so in terms of male role models, fuck that guy, right? But at the same time, oh shit, I didn't bring an umbrella. No, it's just pissing down, sorry guys. But, and the weirdest thing is with my family, my parents growing up, there was this big push for allegiance. There was this is your family, you gotta look after your family, this is the family, we don't talk outside the family, all this shit about the family, like we're the fucking mafia. Irish mafia here. But they did nothing to look after us, really. I mean, they did just enough to keep themselves out of prison, or just enough to get us not taken away by DCP, you know? So when we're talking about allegiances and who we should be looking after and stuff like that, I'm very fucking cynical. I'm not very cynical, I'm cynical towards these guys. Because, you know, it's that obligation without earning. It's like, we looked after you. It's like, yeah, you're supposed to look after us. You're a parent, you morons. It's like, I'm sorry, I'll just pack up my bag at 5 and say, sorry, I'm a burden, and fuck off, shall I? You know, sorry, I inconvenienced your life. You know, oh my God, the conversations you can have with a psych about that shit. It's crazy. But abandonment wounds can be really traumatizing, and especially if you don't recognize you got them. There's trauma, and then there's the abandonment which results, and then there's the trauma from not acknowledging the abandonment. because you're behaving in a certain way and you don't know why you're doing it. You just get like a ripple effect. It's like, well, why do I do that? Why don't I like people physically touching me? Why do I stay away from other people all the time? Why do I turn myself into a hermit every time, someone upsets me, or I start crying because I've seen, funny things on Instagram? It's like, why am I crying now? It's like, it doesn't make sense. It's weird. It's really weird. Again, psych conversations. If you ever get a chance, go and talk to a psych. They'll sort your brain out, or at least, unpick it for a bit. Because they can help you label things or tell you where things might come from. You don't have to take it as gospel, but they might tell you why you're behaving that way. But again, as we all know, all our wounds usually stem from our formative years. If you've got wounds, some people don't have. It annoys the fuck out of me. These people wandering around with perfectly normal lives, deemed normal, non-abusive lives. It's like, how dare you? But some people got away with it. Or some people just didn't get affected by it. I suppose maybe there's a question of resilience there as well. Some people might be more inclined to be resilient over others. I know that having ASD, I had a predisposition to sensory problems. So anything like escalated noise, which I still have problems with. Like, even when like thunder and lightning storms kick in and they're right overhead, I fucking hate it. I can feel it. It's noise. It goes right through you. I don't know how anyone can sit there and enjoy them. I can feel it. I hate it. It goes through you like nails on chalkboard. It's that internal ripping, screaming feeling. But again, that could be PTS, so who knows? It's like elevated noises, bad smells, just weird textures, physical text, touching things, temperature control. I have issues with that. Tastes, all of it. If there's a sensory aspect, I've probably got a problem with it somewhere along the line. Not all of them, just having issues with them. So if you put someone like that who's already predisposed to be physically sensitive, sensory sensitive, into an escalated environment where there constantly is screaming and noise and throwing and chaos, it will give you PTSD. PTSD, what the fuck is that? That's a PlayStation. No, it isn't. That's PSP. But it will fuck you up because you're constantly in that internal screaming, trying to deal with what the fuck is happening kind of mode where everything's escalated. And some people who don't have that sensory issue, those sensory issues, might handle it better because it feels a bit number, maybe. I don't know. The best thing I could have done as a kid was just go hide in the backyard. And that's what I did most days. We had this old abandoned greenhouse that was just mesh. And I would just go hide in there. Or there was like a side alley with a bunch of like fern things. I'd just go hide under them. They were huge. They were about a meter or so high. And I would just avoid my parents because like they avoided us. They ignored us unless they wanted something from us. That was the given. If they wanted us to do something for them, that was pretty much it. Or if we were in trouble, if we'd have done something stupid at school or something like that, they'd come after us. I remember making some kind of a rude song or a poem on a note. And I did it because I hung around boys. And boys are a bad influence, right? And I did it to make them laugh because I liked rude stuff. And I still love rude stuff. But my mum found out that I'd done it and somehow the school had called her or something like that. And I got in shit for it. And she fucking fucked me up for that. I think I was only about 7 at the time. But she really fucked me up for that. Because my mum wanted us to be proper ladies. And I've got a filthy sense of humour. I do. I love it. I'm still a lady. I have amazing sense of humour. I love talking about bums and things. And rude things. I love rude things because it's so to do, isn't it? Rude songs. Dropkick Murphys have got some interesting songs, if you ever find that band. Rude. Drinking songs, definitely. But, I got in trouble for that. So growing up, there wasn't any kind of emotional support. I mean, my parents were more like, you're going to do something because we're telling you to do it and you will achieve it. And this is my mum talking, not my dad. My dad really didn't have a hand in raising us. But he was physically there, which apparently counts for something. Except when he was physically there, he was sleeping, ignoring, or shouting at us and throwing things. So I don't understand the value of a father figure. Father physically being there, really. some people complained about, oh, my dad went out for cigarettes or whatever, never came back. I'm like, I fucking wish mine had done that. There'd be more food on the table at least, right? So jokey. Anyway. But, you know, he did, I don't know. Anyway, emotional support wasn't there. Having said that, you do have a choice now as an adult. You can turn around and say, look, my parents were fucked up. I'm not going to do that. So I do that now in the classroom. It's like, I don't have actual kids of my own. But if I ever had to look after someone else's, and I do every day, so I got like 30 kids minimum every day that I need to look after. Every interaction, if it's not... There are disciplinary actions where you have to, you know, correct bad behavior, but it's never really harsh. It's very much gentle parenting. But if I ever interact with a kid, I want it to be a positive thing. I don't want it to be the same horribleness that my parents put on us. And the feeling of worthlessness and of being in a burden. Because we were a burden at that stage. It's not because my parents, not just because my parents were financially responsible, but also because we knew, and they told us that we were a fucking burden. They did. I remember once or twice having fucking family meetings, and I hated family meetings. That we'd sit around the big table in the middle of the, what was it, the slate room, which is the middle room of the house. Slate because we had a slate floor. Old school houses where they had like potbelly stoves and shit. Oh, your mattress is getting wet. Sorry, someone's just trying to move a mattress in the rain. That's insane because your car's going to keel over because the mattress takes up water. But random conversation there. Should have put a tarp on it. Anyway. But they told us that we were abandoned, that money was tight, obviously, which we were on board with. It was like, okay, so what do we do? But they didn't tell us how we were going to fix it. They just said money's tight. And it's like, okay, why is it tight? Oh, because this. And, you know, they'd highlight things that we needed, or not that they were going to get more money or get a job or anything like that, but because they'd highlight the problems. So it was a lot of, you know, like highlighting the main problems of poverty. It's like, oh, our house is up for a second mortgage, or we have to go to a food bank, or it was always telling us the biggest problem part, the negative side of things, not suggesting ways to fix it or that it's going to get better. So we lived a lot of our childhood with our parents telling us that it was a catastrophe about to happen, or that or feeling that we were constantly on the verge of being homeless. You know, it's like we're going to go into possession and repossession, shit like that. And it would always happen at these fucking meetings around this big table. And a lot of conversations we had were just traumatic. So when we did talk to my parents, it was either these horrible experiences where we're on the verge of homelessness, which never fucking happened, which is just more drama, which is why I hate drama now. Because I'm like, are you sure this time? Because I like to prep for everything. I'm trauma-based and survivalist at heart because of where I come from and what I came through. So I do prep for the worst, and I enjoy prepping for the worst at this stage because I know it's never going to be the worst. So I've been through enough to know that it never gets to the worst, really. Some people see a small blip in their day and they go, oh my God, we're going to die. I'm going, fuck off. Get out of it. Calm down. But from a young age, my parents prepped us to expect the worst. And to be honest, it's been helpful to an extent. But it also sets you up for a predisposition for catastrophizing, which is true. What, you know, could happen. I don't know if you can hear me right now. There's raining pretty heavy. But yeah. So when you, and I suppose, you know, my ex-boyfriend was talking about how I catastrophize things. If you want to go into that thread, I found a hair clip stuffed down the back of the couch. Wasn't mine. I also found stuck-on sequins around the house. Also not mine. And he turned around, and as I addressed this issue, he would play on, knowing what I'd come through, he'd play on it saying I was catastrophizing. And I'm sitting there going, I know I catastrophize sometimes, but this I am not. This has got evidence to it. Clearly something has gone wrong here. This is not, given the physical evidence, this is not out of the bounds that you could have cheated on me. I'm able to sort of logic it out now. Sorry, I'm just navigating massive puddles and roundabouts at this point. So I'm a little bit hesitant to talk. But I don't catastrophize everything. I like to see the humor in things most of the time, so, you know, it's impossible to catastrophize. When people are absolutely losing their shit, I'm laughing my ass off. But I'm a bit weird that way. Ooh, sorry. It is really raining. Because, you know, you can't take everything so seriously. Ooh, big puddle. Ooh, sorry. I hate driving in the rain. Anyway. People losing their shit. I've already been homeless. I've already been in debt. I've already been divorced. I've nearly died twice. I've already tried to commit suicide. And all these things I've already done and gone through. I've lived through an abusive childhood. Raped. Sexually assaulted. What else you got, motherfuckers? Bring it on. Because we've already done this. So you know, you develop a sort of sense of near immortality, right? Invincibility. You're like, I've done this. What else? So when some pissy, you know, 20-year-old turns around and says, we don't like you, it's like, I don't give a fuck. It's absurd that you think I do. I just find it interesting. Because obviously they've never gone through the same things. They haven't developed that kind of mindset. And if one of their friends turns around and possibly says, we don't like you, you're not part of our group, maybe it would be their life ending. You know, apparently they're shallow assholes. Do it to me, I'm like, great, I don't have to tolerate your mature bullshit anymore. Fabulous. And I'm going to save money because I'm not buying you drinks. Brilliant. Awesome. I'm going to reinvest it in shares or something. You fuckers haven't got to the point where you've got that level of maturity where you actually need to do anything with money. You just want to spend it on piss and stuff. You've got no idea what you're doing. Anyway, that's a long tangent. I don't have the mindset of needing to belong. My abandonment issues that I did have are most definitely cured by now. I just don't care. If someone says I can't do something with them, I'm like, okay, I'm probably going to go do something better anyway. You can go do that. That sounds really boring. I'm going to go do this. And it's turned out well that way, actually. I find that things that I'm interested in generally are more constructive than whatever they're doing anyway. It's weird that way. But it does lend itself to isolation, but it's not really isolation in that it's voluntary isolation. I like being on my own. I'm very much a Sigma. I like doing my own thing, being on my own. I don't want to participate most of the time with other people because other people are either boring or, you know, nasty, or it just goes nowhere. Yeah, so I'm alright on my own, to be honest. You know, some people that act, belong, commit thing, they've got some kind of weird government initiatives, like you're supposed to want to belong. I'm going, do I? Because I'm looking around going, I'm pretty good at this point. Strange people. Anyway, not everybody is an extrovert. Not everybody's craving everybody else's attention. And that's what you find in most conversations with people that are extroverts and want everyone's attention and feel that they need to be validated through interactions with others. It's like, you know, dressing up in slutty clothes and stuff like that to try and get guys' attention, for example. That external validation, you'll find that they have abandonment issues because they didn't get what they needed in childhood. And so now they have to find it externally. I don't have that anymore. I think I grew out of it. You know, I grew out of, you know, bedwetting and nail biting. I grew out of abandonment issues. So I just got fed up enough to not give a fuck. So, yeah, it's fun. It does get a bit annoying when you're watching other people doing it, though, I will say that. Because they're looking for a validation by doing what you deem generally silly things. So if you're if you're worried about being abandoned, I wouldn't worry too much. I mean, there is that abandonment where you don't want to get left in the middle of a desert or something, or on an island. But you should be okay. What is this? Sorry, I'm just navigating a car park with a bunch of people. that don't know what they're doing. I'm trying to get through. Morons with Navaras. It's always morons with Navaras. Direct to boot is full. Is it? Or are people just assholes? Yes, I'm supposed to be picking up my food shopping, but direct to boot, people have just parked there. And now I can't pick up my food shopping. Wonderful, thanks guys. Unless I park around the back, which is possible. Yep. Anyway, perks of living here. Oh, I don't live here. Sorry, this is a long one, I'm just rambling. If you feel abandoned, I really hope that you invest in healing yourself. Don't rely on other people to help you understand who you are, because ultimately you're going to get left on your own. You're going to need to develop a sense of self. There's no one who can actually tell you who you are, because they don't know you from the inside. And as much as you love someone and you want to, you know, be with this person forever and maybe they're your absolute life, they're not the whole be-all end-all. They're not everything, realistically, because you're the one that has to live with your life decisions. Where the hell is the click and collect? Ultimately, you're the one that deals with any trauma, any horrible experiences, because you're the one feeling the feels. You're the one dealing with people. And no one can do it for you. So if you're feeling a bit alone, that's okay. If you're worried that you're going to be alone forever, you're not. You're not. Fuckers will find you. Extroverts find me. I don't know how or why, but they do. I don't know what they want. I don't know what they want. It's insane. So I'm going to have to leave it there, I think. I know, it's a bit of a ramble today because I'm trying to find a car spot, but I hope you guys have a fantastic day. And remember that you're not alone. And you are valuable as a human being on your own self. You don't need other people to make you something. Don't let your abandonment issues dictate who you are. Don't put up with other people's bullshit because they play on your abandonment issues. If you can, heal your abandonment issues, because at this point they're a fucking liability. And they do lend themselves to you getting into situations where you just get fucked over. People love to exploit that stuff. They love, especially like narcissists, they love that attention. They love that they can just, you know, pull on the heartstrings, for example. And they'll get you to stay, and maybe they'll get your affection and your money or your sex or whatever it is, maybe your social group, maybe, I don't know. But you've got to be able to stand on your own 2 feet, okay? It's all right having abandonment issues, but you got to fix that shit. You got to work towards getting rid of them, because you're an adult, okay? You know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. You don't need help. You don't need external validation. No amount of other people is going to add value to you. You just need to make it yourself. All right? Be confident about it, because you are valuable, right? As a human being with your own unique attributes. All right, I'm going to have to leave it there because I've got to go pick up my shopping. And I hope you have a fantastic Saturday. It is Saturday. I'm going to try and do another podcast on the way back. All right, take it easy.